Executive functioning, self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is the ability to evaluate our progress in order to determine if or when adjustments are needed. It involves noticing and correcting our mistakes and knowing when to ask for help. In this video, you will learn about the key components of self-monitoring and practical examples related to school. Simply put, self-monitoring is the ability to assess yourself and make changes as needed. It involves understanding external expectations and determining if they've been met. In order to do this, we have to be able to self-reflect and self-correct when things aren't going well. Some examples might include stopping while reading to check for understanding, evaluating progress on a task before it's finished, identifying errors within a multi-step math problem, or assessing a peer's reaction and adjusting body language or tone of voice. Why is self-monitoring so important? Well, an organizational system isn't helpful if the student doesn't notice that materials are in the wrong place and need to be reorganized. A daily schedule won't help a student improve time management if she isn't paying attention to how she uses her time. A well-thought-out plan can fail if a student isn't able to assess her progress compared to the plan and identify when things aren't going well. Self-monitoring is quite possibly one of the most important, yet least intuitive executive functions. Part of the reason self-monitoring can be such a challenge is that it draws upon many different skills. The process requires a student to use working memory. What were the expectations? Use metacognition. How am I doing compared to the expectations? Do I need to make changes? Manage time. How much time has passed? Am I on track to finish? Plan and organize. How will I schedule it in if I need more time? And regulate emotions. How am I feeling? What can I do if I feel frustrated? Let's take a look at where self-monitoring fits into the big picture of the homework process. This student may be getting a homework assignment at 9 a.m. in her math class, but she knows that with her schedule for the day, she won't be able to work on it until later this afternoon. Ideally, this student is able to imagine what the assignment will look like, the steps for completion, and which materials she will need. Because she visualized and mentally planned that entire process, she can hold that in her mind until later in the day when it's time for math homework. When the time comes, she can pull up that image and get ready to execute her plan by gathering her materials and initiating her work, with some time frames built in. She knows that she wants to start by 3 o'clock and be done by 3:30 so she can meet up with friends. Because she visualized it earlier, she knows what done looks like, and her plan seems reasonable. The student gets started on her work, and as that time gets closer, she realizes she only has 2 problems done, and it's 3:20. Now, her actual work doesn't line up with her plan. This is where self-monitoring comes into play. Now, the student starts to consider that maybe she needs to change her plan. She could ask her friends to meet up a little later in order to have more time to finish. Or she might ask herself if she needs to make changes to her actual work. Why is this taking longer than anticipated? Is she just distracted by her phone and needs to put it away? Or is it that the work is actually challenging? Does she need to skip that question and move on? Or maybe ask for help? The key to completing this assignment is the student's ability to self-reflect and self-correct. And then, of course, the passage of time flows through this entire process. Time ticking away before meeting up with friends and until the assignment is due. As you can see, this is a complex process that takes practice over time. Another example might be behavioral rather than academic. If I'm a student who often has a hard time with group projects, I might make a plan for working well with my group. Before I have class, I envision what this looks like. Well, I know we have to create a slideshow together, and my teacher has been talking about successful group members working together like cogs. In order to do this, I'm going to need to stay focused and cooperate. I'll need to remember respectful language and tone of voice. Oh, and being a good group member includes completion of my portion on time. Now, to get ready for class, I'll need my novel and chapter notes. If this kind of interaction is typically difficult for me, I might engage in a mindful moment before logging into Zoom just to make sure I'm calm and ready. Once my group and I are in a breakout room and ready to start, I can pull out my materials and start working with the group. As time passes, I check in with myself to make sure my actions are matching the plan I envisioned. Am I focused and engaged? Do I need to adjust my words or tone of voice to be more respectful? Am I on pace to finish my slides before the time is up? All the while, I'm keeping in mind that my end goal was not only to finish the project, but also meet my teacher's expectations of positive group participation. Self-monitoring strategies. Self-reflection, which includes questioning and self-talk. Our youngest learners in TK through first grade might self-monitor their understanding of directions using a combination of written and visual cues. Elementary learners might make a plan to read a passage and answer questions. In order to make sure their actual work matches the plan, they will need to self-monitor their comprehension by asking themselves questions as they read. Secondary students engage in the same process with more sophisticated questions to monitor their comprehension. These strategies help students assess their level of understanding throughout a task rather than finishing and realizing they don't understand what they read. Students of all ages can learn to check in with themselves throughout the work process. Rather than asking students, "How are you doing?" adults can support the process by prompting students to check in with themselves. Adults can also model this process at home, cooking, assembling furniture, doing yard work. The opportunities are endless. Self-correction, adjust, or advocate. While self-monitoring, students may find that they are on the right track and doing well. In this case, they continue to work and check in at appropriate intervals. If students find that their actual work doesn't match the original plan, it's time for action. Just like the earlier example of the girl wanting to finish her math and meet up with friends, students can assess whether they need to change their plans or ask for help. When the actual work doesn't match the original plan, sometimes the plan needs to be adjusted. Eliminating distractions can include putting devices away, changing work locations, or even eating a snack. Students may also realize that their plan could be more effective if they utilize available tools. Maybe class notes, a textbook for reference, or flashcards. Perhaps rechecking the directions or asking a friend for clarification. Adjusting time markers on the working clock might be necessary if the work is taking longer than anticipated. Adjusting the plan also helps build flexible thinking skills. If a student identifies that the work is challenging or confusing, asking for help can get the plan back on track. As discussed in the task initiation module, adults can facilitate this process by prompting students to ask higher-level thinking questions rather than simply stating, "I need help." Analyzing mistakes. Mistakes help us grow. It's important to reinforce that mistakes help us learn and grow. Students often feel frustrated if their actual work doesn't match the original plan. They may feel like making the plan wasn't worth it or the strategy doesn't work for them. Making adjustments after under or overestimating time is how we fine-tune our time management skills. We can use real-world examples from athletes, artists, musicians, even family members to reinforce that we all have to make adjustments to our plans in order to bring them to completion. The goal isn't to plan perfectly. The goal is to develop the ability to reflect and adjust throughout the process in order to successfully complete tasks in a timely manner. Strategy for analyzing mistakes that can feel less threatening is framing it as detective work or an investigation. Together, an adult and student might decide to investigate why the science grade is a D. Confrontational questioning about low grades often results in the extremely common answer of, "It's because I stink at science." That inaccurate thought can lead to feelings of embarrassment or shame, which then leads to undesirable behaviors. If we maintain a neutral stance and break it down as part of an investigation, we can help reframe that inaccurate thought. Watch how this grade can be investigated. There are usually 3 main reasons for a low grade: missing work, the actual grades on work, and test grades. I see I have several missing assignments, so I'm thinking that's why the grade is low. What evidence do I have? Well, there are 3 assignments marked not handed in. Okay, So now why are they missing? I'm pretty sure I did them, but I couldn't find the papers when it was time to turn them in. Why? Well, they never made it into my folder. I just left them at my desk or shoved them into the nearest folder. Why? Well, I always think I'm going to get my work done faster than I actually do. So now we've worked backwards and identified issues with organization, planning, and time management. None of these things have anything to do with science at all. The great thing is there are strategies for these problems. By adjusting the plan for science homework, allotting more time for completion, and including put it in my folder in the get done part of my plan, I can work on this problem. And this has nothing to do with being a smart scientist. Visual supports. Students who are starting to put planning, initiation, and time management strategies together, visual supports can support that self-monitoring that needs to take place throughout the process. This is just one example of an interactive self-monitoring support. High tech is not necessary though. Remember the construction paper, get ready, do, done mat from the task initiation module? Students can use dry erase markers or even bingo chips to monitor the completion of tasks as they work. Being aware of what you know and what you don't know, assessing your progress, all of these things are a part of self-monitoring. It involves self-reflection and self-correction. The important thing to remember is it takes time to develop self-monitoring skills.